Welcome back to the VHS Vault. I'm your host, Jason. Of course, he's my co-host, Jason Roy Gaston. We're back at it. Jason Voorhees is back in the house. Today, we're looking at Part 7, Jason. And again, the titles are getting long to say here. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
Yes!
Wow, we can't believe we're 7 down the pathway already, but here we are. Now, this film came out, if I remember, what's this, 86, 87 by this point?
I want to say this was 1988, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct. Actually, May 13th, 1988. Exactly.
Oh, was this ones that actually released on Friday the 13th?
It was. It
Nice.
was. It was on the May 13th, and right in summer season for you guys, the peak film-going season. So they had a lot of faith in this one, Jason, if they were going to put it right at the right time. I don't know why this film was made. I've got to ask you, I don't know if you know, why did they divert from the last film to this film?
Well, there is a sad story that we all know that around 2002, we got the amazing Freddy versus Jason movie finally, but they'd been trying to make that movie for years. And this movie was supposed to be the Freddy versus Jason movie.
No way.
Oh, yes. But at the time,
Wow.
Jason was owned by Paramount. Freddy was owned by New Line, and they could not negotiate the rights. Not to be perturbed, because Paramount was really hung up on the whole Jason versus somebody, fill in the blank, that they went to MGM for the rights to Stephen King's Carrie, because they wanted to make Jason versus Carrie. MGM was somewhat puzzled by this request because they said, I don't know if you've read the book or seen the movie. Obviously, you haven't seen the movie, and obviously you don't read, but Carrie died at the end of this story.
Yes, yes.
And Paramount was like, yeah, so you've seen how many times our guys died? So MGM said, thanks, but no thanks. And they eventually turned it into Jason versus Carrie anyway. They dubbed this movie Carrie versus Terminator, which I thought was great. So that's why we have Friday the 13th, Part 7.
It's very naive, and it actually goes to show that Paramount were ahead of the game on that concept of cross promotion. And as we know, that's Godzilla versus Kong. We've had Freddy versus Jason. We've had, what else have we had? We've had a few versus type of films.
Dollmaker versus Dollman versus Demonic Toys. We've had that.
We've had that.
Octoshark versus
whatever.
Megalodon. I don't know.
Yeah, Killer Koala. I don't know.
Yeah.
At this point,
Barricane versus Sharknado. We've had all those things.
Yes.
X versus Sever.
Yeah.
No, never mind.
I am. Yeah, X versus Sever. Oh my God, I'd buried that movie in my head for a reason.
That is your deep cut of the week. Thank you.
You got a problem with Ray Park's one of your leads. No offense to our good friend Ray Park.
Ray Park is an amazing human being, but he owes me about $30 worth of lamps.
Is that because you practiced to be like him? Yes.
No, that's because my son practiced to be like him and broke $30 worth of lamps. And I have cheap lamps. And Ray Park owes me for lamps. I told him that, and he just kind of looked at me and went,
This is a cable movie for you? You saw this on cable?
I saw this on VHS.
Whoa,
I rented this because I had graduated to VHS by that point.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I remember thinking, the hell is this?
Yeah.
That's it. Because Friday the 13th, Part 6 is cinematic amazement. It is beautiful. It's the best film in the series. And we went from the best film in the series to the worst. Absolute bottom of the barrel worst.
I as well, I saw it on VHS, and I even remember at the time feeling very flat and disappointed at the end of it. And I'd never I just didn't watch it again because if I was going to watch Friday the 13th films, I generally went to 3, 4, and 6 were the ones that I would repeat playing over and over again. But yeah, not this one. Yeah, I'd forgotten about it. I'm still perplexed why you wouldn't continue with Tommy. Just because he was really at the core of the previous two films. I don't know why that character just didn't keep developing, because I think they were really smart in having a consistent foe. He almost like the Dr. Loomis of the films. He's around, especially in the first four, of course. That it would have been great to have Tommy kind of continue. But they go with Carrie instead.
Yes. They don't carry over anything from the last movie that works
At all.
The metatone, the slight wink of humor to everything. This is just a straight-laced, very serious, badly executed slasher movie, and it just fails on every single level. I'm struggling to think, aside from the concept, I'm struggling to think of anything in this movie actually worked, and I'm coming up empty.
Well, I got to tell you, one of my favourite things to do with these when we've been doing it is going through the kills. And even the kills in this film are fairly forgettable.
They are terrible, because this movie was heavily censored by the MPAA. So much so that fans of the series call this Friday the 13th Part 7 the No Blood.
I agree 100%. And the director, I'm sorry, he made some of the worst directing choices in this film in regards to performances, the way he staged things, how character arcs were supposed to work. I mean, put it this way, I have one single image here I want to show you to me that sums up the stupidity of this film. And it's an unassuming shot, but to me, this shows to me and encapsulate why the film's so dumb. And if you don't know her, she's one of the blondes who's jealous of Carrie, and I'm going to call her Carrie throughout the film, throughout this review. That her character is so dumb and so like that is TV level after school special type of directing in this.
Yeah,
film. And it's constantly through it. I did not like the lead. I don't like her.
Terrible performance.
Really flat line deliveries that were going on. However, I don't want to completely eviscerate this film. There are some things I didn't mind. The idea of having a girl who's suffering from mental health and taking her to a cabin in the woods with a mother and doctor feels a bit odd and maybe
not the best idea. No,
but
let's go to the exact same cabin you killed your dad at.
Yeah, again,
that'll help.
That's what I had a problem with.
At this same lake where all these people get killed every few years.
Yeah, exactly.
Incidentally, did you know that timeline-wise, we have the biggest jump between movies right now? Because the time between Part 6 and Part 7 is supposed to be a full decade. It's supposed to be 10 years.
Yeah, I do. And it's interesting, in the Jason universe, we've had a few time jumps.
Yes.
And they always look like they're in the 80s. So
yes.
In the Jason universe, even if it's... That means that would be the late 90s. It still looks like 19...
Well, in the Jason universe, the 80s last, at least 200 years. This is the biggest time jump that we have, at least until Jason X.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's when you get your massive time jump.
Yeah.
When I think about this film, though, and I think about the plot, so, yeah, you've got that idea. You've got I don't mind the idea of the doctor purposely taking her there. I didn't mind that idea of the doctor actually just trying to use her to bring out her powers and using the Jason, what he thinks is a mythology, to bring that out of her. That's a kernel of a good idea.
Yes, there are kernels of good ideas in this movie. They never pop, though.
No, especially that whole plot line, which should have been really dug into more, and there was something there, wasn't? No, she turns up at the cabin, and of course, who's across the lake, Jason, but a bunch of dumb teenagers.
Of course. Because after creating real tension and real fear with having children at the camp, let's just go back to the dumb sex-crazed teenagers, because that's worked so well in the other installments. I do want to stop us for just a second, because I want to go back to the very beginning of this movie.
Sure,
because we have an open monologue. And it's the
voiceover dude.
It's a very well done monologue. I think that the clips go on a little too long, but the monologue itself is really good. It's really good. Do you know who does the voice?
No.
That was Walt Gorney, who played Crazy Ralph in part 1 and part 2. You're all gonna die. It was him.
Yes. Okay. This film has just jumped up 0.01 point for me because of that.
And
I will say it. That's the best part of the movie.
This was also Walt Gorney's final film appearance because he passed away not long after this.
Oh.
And then we go into what is the worst theme song ever. Here's my rendition. Dum dum. Dum 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 dum.
It's
dum 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 dum.
The music.
Dum, dum.
Oh my god.
And it's
horrible. But the music, besides the classic themes they introduced, the music is absolutely despicable in this film.
It is terrible.
It is terrible.
Awful,
and my wife, when we're watching it together, my wife turns to me and goes, "What is this music?" And that's in the opening credits. It's enough that she was like, "Oh, I'm going to get up and make a cup of coffee." The film hadn't even started. She'd checked out by the time that music came on. Yeah, the music is absolutely horrible. That monologue is and doing a recap is frankly a good idea at this point. There's 7 movies in. Let's kind of keep the audience and get them refreshed of where we are.
Of course, by the time part 8 comes around, they're just like, dude with the machete wants to kill people. That's all you need to know. I also have to say, in this movie, we get the debut of Mr. Kane Hodder as Jason. And Kane, the makeup that they have on Kane Hodder, not just on the face that we see later, which I will get into later, but just the costuming and he looks outstanding in this movie. I'm almost sad that Jason looked this amazing in Friday the 13th Part 7 because this look deserved to be in a better movie.
Oh, can I just say the look, right? When he comes out of the lake, I'll get into the dumb reason why he gets out of the lake in a minute, but the spine work.
Oh, yeah.
Like the makeup effect of the spine.
The arms.
Yes.
He looks gross.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, no, the makeup effect on Jason himself was excellent. Was really good. But the way her father, like the flashback to how her father dies, till Carrie's father dies, is so melodramatically dumb, Jason, where he's on the jetty for 30 seconds while it's rocking. Oh, like... It's like that movie, we've mentioned it before. It's that Austin Powers scene when the guy's going to get run over by the steamroller. Dad had plenty of opportunity to dive into the water, run back from the jetty, anything to put himself in that situation.
I also question the taste that this movie showed by making young Tina, Carrie, by making her look like Carol Ann from Poltergeist, knowing that Heather O'Rourke had passed away by this point.
And you know what? It's the same year, dude.
Yeah.
It's the same year.
Just like her costume and everything.
Yeah.
That was a purposeful choice to make her look like Carol Ann, and I think it was in very bad taste.
Extremely bad taste. It's really offensive. There are a lot of things that are kind of bad taste, but again, the emotional core of this movie is about her relationship with her father, right? How she lost her father. And it's just so dumb in that scene.
Yes.
No real explanation where her powers come from either, by the way. We get none of that. Except
somebody tried to stab her with a iron bar, and she got struck by lightning.
And you know what? You can tell this director watched Carrie a few times because he's specifically stealing shots. When she does telekinesis, there was always a shot of Carrie close up on her face, her eyes would move, you would do a hard cut to the thing moving, and he's just stealing that at this point. There's no creativity from this director at all.
Oh, can we talk about Tina's theme also when she uses her powers, and what an irritating music box tune that was. Repeat, repeat. It's just awful. I do have a funny story though about Kane Hodder. So Kane Hodder's dressing room, and remember what he looked like in this movie, just that amazing zombie appearance. His dressing room was a quarter of a mile down a dirt road, so he had to walk. He had to walk to the filming location. Well, one night filming ended at 2 a.m. He's on his way back to his dressing room. And as he was walking, somebody walked up to him and asked if he was with the movie.
Was he very...
Yeah. Kane Hodder said that he didn't reply because he thought that was the dumbest effing question he had ever been asked in his entire life.
You wouldn't want him to say no, would you?
Yeah. So, and whenever the guy asked again, he said that he just stopped and stared at him and then lunged like that. And the guy ran away. The next day, the director was told that the local sheriff had been called, but the sheriff didn't want to come down. So Kane Hodder is...
The sheriff went, I saw what happened to the last sheriff in the movie. I am not going down there.
Although, sometimes your back hurts just enough where you're thinking, I'd give him a shot at
it. Well, Kane Hodder, physicality. To me, it's not even about how he looks. It's his presence. It's what he brings, from a physical point of view to Jason.
Yes, he's a big guy. He moves in very unnatural ways. I don't know if you know this, but Kane Hodder actually has scars all over his neck from stunt work. He was burned very badly. And so he moves his neck and his shoulders at the same time. So it gives him a very Terminator look anytime he zeroes in on somebody.
That's fantastic. And plus, you've got a creature who is basically been, disintegrating underwater. It makes sense for the physicality for him not to be.
Yes, which I'm going to talk more about Kane Hodder here in just a moment when we get to a certain scene, because there's a scene in this movie that I think you watch it and you're just like, oh, there's nothing special about that until you know that about Kane Hodder and what the scene entailed. And then I think it becomes pretty extraordinary.
All right, you know what? Don't bury the lead, Jason. Get into it. What are we talking about? We don't need no structure on this show.
Well, we're just going to skip all the way to the end. Hold on.
Get into it. Doesn't matter.
Swipe. All right.
I've got the same thing.
All right, so the basement scene when Carrie and Jason are fighting and she's throwing things at him like she's Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. At one point, she sets him on fire. When you watch that scene, you are looking at the world record for the longest uninterrupted, on-screen, uncontrolled burn in Hollywood history.
Wow.
That being said, I want you to remember Kane Hodder himself is a burn victim who willingly set himself on fire for 40 seconds, which I know everybody's at 40 seconds. That's nothing. Guys, I've been on fire before. Not purposely, but I have been on fire. Time slows down and you have time to think about, this is going to hurt. I'm going to be disfigured. Fortunately, I was not. But
we could tell.
I consider that just brass cojones bravery right there.
That is actually amazing to hear, because it is a long ass scene. And I know back then they used the fire gel. They have a lot better stuff now.
Yes.
Like the chemicals they use, like you can be on fire for a while. But even 40 seconds, he would have been feeling quite warm under there.
Yeah. It was just amazing. And just...
What a resilience of a human being and mental focus you must have to be able to do that.
And I have had the pleasure and the privilege of meeting Kane Hodder, and he is one of the sweetest, nicest people in the world. It's like, you were Jason? Yeah. I'll tell you this quick story. I went up to go meet him at a convention. And, most celebrities are very standoffish. It's like, hey, this is my space, get away. I come up there and I've got my daughter with me, and I say, hey, I want to get this guy's autograph because, Friday the 13th I'm a big fan. I walk up there and he has this man in a wheelchair who's sitting behind the table with him. And I come up there and we're just talking. There wasn't anybody else in the line. We're just talking. We're chatting. Yeah. It turns out this guy who's in the wheelchair came up, told him what a fan he was, and Kane Hodder invited him to come behind the booth with him and just hang out.
Oh my God, how amazing is that?
Yeah. And he's so great. Kane Hodder, and he was so warm and so personable. He's one of my favorite celebrity encounters ever.
He was able to break down that wall and just be a normal human being, like
exactly. Not a normal human being, an extraordinary human being, because there's lots of people who do that. I don't know if it's just because he was so unexpectedly nice, or I had just met Lou Ferrigno and he was a grade A jackhole before
I've heard that before.
But yeah, Kane Hodder is a solid dude, and I'm anything he's in, I will watch.
Well, I've never had the privilege of meeting Kane Hodder, but I've been a big fan because it was very evident his run on Jason was, and I think this is no one's going to argue this. Maybe someone in the chat wants to argue, in the comments wants to argue, but he's the best version of Jason we've ever got.
And he was screwed out of Freddy versus Jason. He was screwed out of that role.
I really struggle to understand how you not get him.
New Line should be hanging their heads in shame for what they did to him.
Damn shame, because I liked that movie a lot too.
Yeah, I did too, and it made me angry because I liked it.
All right, grab your phone and scroll all the way back up again. We're gonna now.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I just swiped right on like 3 people.
The next victims for Jason. Middle class white women.
Yeah, they're the worst.
All right, you know, I'm kind of glad they're in the film because you know they're gonna get it.
Oh yeah, and they were considerate enough to make them the worst people on earth too.
Yeah, because the mother is one of the worst people on earth.
Yes,
that kid should have been taken away from her.
Absolutely,
she is horrible. Her hair was horrible. Talk about 80s hair.
Oh my god.
She watched Linda Gray in Dallas or whatever, or Dynasty, and went, "That's what I'm going for." So I didn't really like him. The doctor, though. Dr. Creepy Dude, for the sake of this film.
Yes, Dr. Creepy
That
Dude.
actor, I really like. Is it Terry Kaiser? I can't remember the name of the actor.
I don't remember.
But he always usually plays like a henchman or a bad guy in films.
Oh, I couldn't imagine that.
I couldn't imagine that. I don't mind. He's probably the strongest actor in the entire film for me.
But that's not much of a high bar. You have to admit.
I know. But he's probably... but his whole motivations, that whole doctor bit is kind of...
Yeah, Terry Kaiser.
Come on, Terry Kaiser. What time a mother lets her daughter hang out with someone who's been in a...
Wait a second. He was Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah, it's Bernie.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh! Is this how Bernie died?
That's how they got it. No, I actually...
that's
I'd
amazing.
seen it before, but yeah, that's just dropped into my head. As soon as you went Bernie, I went, yeah, of course, he was Bernie. Weekend at
Wow.
Bernie's.
Bernie got a sequel.
Yeah, yes. Yes. Weekend at Bernie's 2 is the most... I won't even get into that. That's not on the wheel,
Even know. We need to put it on the wheel.
We do.
We need to.
But I didn't mind him as a performer. But that's about it.
A little too mustache twirly for me, I thought.
It is, but in a film where you've got everything that's so ridiculous, Jason, at least there's something to hang your hat on. There's some little microism of something there. And that was the only reason I attached to it. Because she is so unwatchable, the main lead in this.
She's awful. It's just awful. She's not given much to work with, but she doesn't even work with what she's given.
And you look at it, and because you're the lead and you've got to carry the film, it made me appreciate the performance who played Tommy Jarvis in the previous 2 films. Because even in number 5, the kid who played Tommy gave a much stronger performance than this young lady here. I don't want to seem I'm attacking the young lady because it could have been the fact, I think a lot had to do with direction, what they chose to do with her. She clearly needed a couple of more takes in certain scenes. Jason coming out of the water, the whole concept of how Jason comes back to life, even that is really effing dumb for me.
Yes, it is.
Because even from a telekinetic perspective, she has the ability to move things. I didn't know telekinesis powers meant you could bring things back to life.
But was he really dead, or did she just break the chains?
Well, I don't know. All I know was a lot of bubbles coming up, and the bubbles brought him back to life.
Well, you know, you stay underwater that long, you're going to get a little gassy.
Though, that's where the strong part comes in. Like, the nice touch of him coming out of the water, and the fact that he'd been in the water for so long that we got to see the exposed spine, and he'd do great. You know, the little fishes were eating him over the years.
Oh, yeah. And
nibbling on him.
You know, on the way up, he was like cutting them just...
yeah, like a sushi restaurant. But yeah, and the thing is, he gets out of that lake, dude, and he just looks at Carrie. He looks at Tina Shepherd and just goes, "Thanks, lady," and walks off. which to me doesn't make, is he cognitive of the moment? It's like, hey man, thanks for the solid. Because Jason doesn't usually care about that. I would have thought Jason would have got up and instinctively went for her. Because he doesn't try to not kill her later on in the movie.
Maybe he was a little disoriented. Maybe there's a big joke about he only goes after people who smoke pot and have sex and, do bad things. So maybe he just did not feel like she was in that category yet.
You know that we have cannon fodder in every one of these films. We call them
yes.
cannon fodder. The people that die don't really make sense. We had the greasers from part 5, I think. We've had, lots of couples in this, and I get really annoyed when we get the cannon couple, as I'm going to call them here, and she gets stabbed by a knife and he gets spiked.
Yes.
With one of the metal spikes. And it's just like, you are nothing, people. You mean nothing. The scene is flat because you're not even doing anything interesting with the scene. And I think it really adds to the disappointment you're having when you're watching it, because there's nothing fresh happening here. Like, for them to keep that spike, which, like the inanimate rod in Jason Lives, has a major plot device in this film because he uses it early on. The spike is then, I think by the doctor, embedded in the frame of the house, outside the house.
Yes.
There's one in the drawer of the doctor's office, but no reference of why that spike's important, and nor do we see Jason ever pick up that spike or find it. So it's, to me, again, they're just poor choices all the way around.
Do you know that so many of the actors in this movie were secretly gay in real life? So much so that,
Hollywood.
Yeah, so much so that fans actually call this one Fry Gay, the 13th part 7. And I'm not making the joke. That's actually what they call this movie. Is they call it Fry Gay.
Is them to be insulting or?
No, it's the gay community calls it that. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Okay, yeah. I just want to know who the
I would never.
If it was middle-aged white, cis males doing it, I'd go, oh, what the hell? But if it's the gay people going,
it's the gay community doing it. But yeah,
can I ask you? Do they feel the same way about? There's a real teaser coming up in our future, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, because that is really gay in a best way possible.
Incredibly so, yes.
Let's get back to this dumbass film. All right,
we have to.
Oh, the dumbass teenagers. The main dude, Mr. Handsome, right? Mr. Handsome here has zero charisma. He's as flat of an actor that I have ever seen.
He has the personality of pod soil. It's just
no offense, man. He sees this chick across the lake. Instantly is connected with her. She quickly shows that she's a bit high maintenance. That she might be problematic but he, not once, he is chasing her, hunting her down to be romantically involved with her from the get-go. And I can't see any reason why any man would be attracted to that young lady, to Tina, when she's freaking Fruit Loops.
He's like the live-action version of Pepe Le Pew with no personality.
Exactly. Great analogy.
At some point, she rubbed up against a fence or something, got a big white stripe down her back, and now he's just like chasing after him, going, "Hey, mon chéri, we could have a beautiful love affair." I don't know. It's just I'm the same way. Why her?
Why her?
Why is it always the girls with issues? The guys want the girls with issues. Girls want the guys with with issues.
Yeah, I don't know. And you're talking about issues. This girl here, the one I showed in the forest. And this is skipping ahead to the film where she tries to make the handsome dude jealous by sleeping with somebody else. She is nothing as well. She plays this preppy, privileged, spoiled white girl that is so surface level. There's nothing to it. In fact, it goes against logic. If he's quickly ready to dump her, or not even be interested in her, to go hang out with the psycho chick, why are you wasting your time trying to chase him down and make him jealous? And at some point, she's got powers, and you still double down to try to mess with her.
Yeah, come on. She killed her dad, dude. Don't do that.
Yeah. As I put in the notes here, the preppy bitch. So anyway, that's what my note says. Tina starts seeing visions of Jason's kills. Like telekinetic, but now she's having visions of how the others are being killed.
I don't think that they really knew how psychic powers were supposed to work. I think it's just one of those things where they had it all in the moment. It's like, well, I guess she can see through the killer's eyes now. Oh, wait, now she can move things with her mind. Now she can predict the future.
Yeah, exactly. See, here's the problem. Everyone will go with a film once you set up the film's boundaries and its internal logic. If you set up a film with proper boundaries and internal logic, you can take the audience anywhere you want them to take them. But when you start breaking your own rules, when you start breaking the own internal film logic, that's when you lose it. And this is a great example of that. It's horribly, horribly executed. In fact, you know what one of the most cringiest moments in this film for me was? The TV moment. Because it was so poorly executed. When she telekinetically lifts the TV up in the air and throws it up the top.
That was like Avatar, the last Airbender, whenever they're throwing the rocks. And it's just that was just bad. You could almost see the strings.
Yes. And I'm like, oh God, I'm cringing for the special effects guys.
It would have looked so much better if somebody had just yeeted the TV from off camera. I don't know. It just that was really bad.
I will say though, they do still keep to some of the classic things that we need Jason to do to make it a Friday the 13th. Some of the kills, right? And we know skinny dipping, that's Jason bread and butter right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you're skinny dipping, you're done, right? Yes. Jason's coming to get you. So we get that. We get someone thrown out the window, I believe, at some point in this movie as well.
It happens in every movie, but yes.
We get the classic slice across the neck, which happens so they are hitting those moments. The problem is, Jason, none of them are effective than the previous versions we've already seen.
No, as we said, the MPAA really got their claws into this one and demanded all kinds of edits. I don't know why. I don't know why this one was so offensive when the others were way worse, in my opinion.
Well, wait, okay, you got the classic machete to the face. We get that in this film, but we don't actually see it.
No.
But we have seen it in previous films, and it's not even that gory because when the makeup's done right, it's just a prosthetic with a little bit of fake blood around the blade. It's actually it's really, really odd because the horror moment actually comes from the moment he swings it down. Our mind makes up the rest of it. So it seems odd why you're not cutting the actual action of the death. You're just cutting the after effects of the death.
Well, you also have to understand the political landscape of 1988. We had just come off of 8 years of Reagan. Now we were in George H.W. Bush, and they were all about family values.
Yeah, and you know what? You got
evil Hollywood. They were all
and the
about
boomer generation's in control too, right?
Exactly.
So you got really conservative, Christian value people in those roles making choices of what is acceptable in the ratings game.
Right. And at this point, the pendulum was decidedly facing towards the right. And don't forget the satanic panic of the 80s as well. Everybody was afraid that the Satanists were out kidnapping blue-eyed, blonde-haired children.
My mum wouldn't let me play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Either. My mum watched the 60 Minutes and got terrified that somehow I was going to get in the occult. And actually, my brother stepped up and went, Mum, don't be stupid. You know what it's about. And Mum goes, oh, it's just like swords, and except you just tell stories to each other. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, you can go do that. And I think that's indicative of the 80s. Everyone just hears something and they panic.
That's not indicative of the 80s. That's indicative of always. You just
true.
You just go on Facebook and look at somebody panicking over a Build-A-Bear that looks like RuPaul right now. They're all going crazy, and I'm just like, have you guys even read that article? I don't think.
Have you even watched RuPaul's Drag Race? Because we watch it all the time here. We watch the UK version, American version, Australian version. We're all about RuPaul in this house.
Does RuPaul do the Australian version?
Yeah, he came down
That's
and
amazing.
done it in Australia. Yeah,
That's
it was
amazing.
awesome.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's done UK ones as well. He's fantastic. In fact, RuPaul says to me, I don't know how we got to RuPaul. Why hasn't that guy got a Hollywood career? He is so talented, hilarious. What's going on, Hollywood? RuPaul needs to be more things.
I've always said that for horror movies to work, the people in the horror movies have to be a little dumb. This movie takes it to a whole new level.
Jason in the tool shed moment I kind of liked. Because we don't really get this a lot in Jason films. Generally, he'll have a new weapon, Jason. We don't always know where it comes from. In the last film, they gave him a utility belt, I remember you saying. Yes. Which was kind of cool as a way to say he could store all his... Do you think he gives them like bat names? You know how you had the bat spray and all that? He's got the Jason axe, the Jason knife, the Jason ice pick.
Given Jason's brain power, I think it's more like, here's the Jason stabby hurty thing. Here's the Jason wacky stabby thing. Here's the Jason head pop off thing.
But one of the scenes in the movie, he gets into a tool shed.
Yes.
I thought, he would have loved that moment, Jace. He just would have been like,
It's like a white person walking into an IKEA.
It's like me walking into a buffet, all you can eat. I'm just like, that was I didn't mind that because it's not normally you don't really get any of that in these films.
I did appreciate that, how he kept coming back with different tools, because every time he whacked somebody, he'd like scamper off to go back to the tool shed and he'd pick out something else and come back and he'd be so excited. You can see him shaking. He's just so excited. Like, look at him. Let's trip Tina so that he can use that.
Yeah, I tell you what, he'd be the best one to get for a secret Santa, I reckon, because it's so easy to buy for. You wouldn't have to think too much, we spoke about this before. I did like the telekinetic nails in Jason moment. That moment just before he gets set on fire. I will say the nails was pretty cool. Because something about rusty nails going into is always like, ugh. As someone who's fired a nail through his finger before, I can feel that.
I will also say that this movie is not incredibly original. It borrows from a lot of other movies. We've said, you said Carrie, we said Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. One of the ones that they steal from at one point is The Evil Dead, because the Roots attack Jason. And it is such an Evil Dead moment, which I don't know if you knew this, but the sequel to Freddy versus Jason was at one point going to be Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. So we would have had the Evil Dead pop up at one point or another.
You know what? What really upsets me about that is we know that film would have been a massive hit. And we know Bruce Campbell would have killed it in that role.
But, New Line is sitting there going, do we really want to make that much money?
Yeah, clearly not. They actually blew up the house in this, and it looked great. It
looked
Jason.
Amazing.
What a cool explosion! I gotta say,
it's funny.
It wasn't a model, was it? It was full size.
I don't know if it was a full size model or if it was a half size model, but it looked really good. And it's funny, for a movie that I said I had nothing positive to say about, I'm actually saying quite a few positive.
Yeah, no, we actually dig into it. It has slivers. That's why I gave it that's why I think I said to you in the chat, it's 30% a good movie.
Yeah. We're talking about that 30% a lot. I do want to talk about another great aspect that comes before the house blows up.
Yep.
And that's the moment whenever he's about to kill Mr. No Personality boyfriend.
Yeah.
And she does what I think is actually like a boss level move, where she uses her powers to tighten the mask around his face.
Oh, pus head.
And pus starts pouring out. And then when the masks break, that is the best Jason face we've ever seen.
Oh, I've got it right here.
It is outstanding. He looks malevolent.
At him.
He looks sinister. He looks angry.
But just also
is someone to fear.
Check out his chest.
Yes.
Look, all the bones there and all that type of thing.
He never looked cooler after this movie, and I think that is such a shame, because this movie is it's absolute buns. This movie is buns, and he never looked cooler than he did in this movie.
No, it's absolutely fair. Whoever the makeup person is in this one,
I don't know who they were.
Props to you, buddy.
Yes.
Props to your whole team, because you nailed it with Jason on this film. But yeah, that was the when I went, oh my God, I forgot how cool Jason looks without the mask here. And if you go back and look at it, let's go back and look at it. They've kind of changed things a little bit face-wise.
For the better.
Where he doesn't have his eye, it's it seemed to be a bit normal rather than being earlier versions of Mutant Jason. One eye's here and the other eye's kind of up there. But it doesn't matter. It looks
No, he looks amazing. He just looks so evil. He looks like somebody to be absolutely terrified of. Because if I came across that in the woods, I'd just run. I'd run.
What do you think about Jason after he was crispy, though? I like crispy Jason.
He looked really good. I like that he showed damage.
Yeah. Do you think it's the first time that we're actually really seeing... I mean, I suppose part 6, we've seen the wormy face, but it feels like this is the first time that we're actually showing damage to him inside the film.
I know that he comes across some physical equals later in Jason X and in Freddy versus Jason, but this is really the first time Jason has ever had to fight for his life. Or his lack of life. So yeah, he's gonna take some damage. He's gonna be messed up by the time it's over with.
This ending, dude. You're kind of leading there. We got to deal with it.
Oh my God.
It is the freaking dumbest ending to a Jason film.
And it's
that
weird.
I've ever seen. I mean, we've had those weird non sequiturs at the end of it where Jason just comes out of nowhere. And we always try to frame it as, it was a dream sequence or it was just something to shock the audience. Here they make it an integral part of the third act. And this is what they do. They lure him to the jetty. Fine. It's a plan that's worked before. Thank you, Tommy. But bringing back the dad... Are you joking? So you spend this whole film saying, we've got Carrie and we've got Jason. We're going to build up to a battle, a fight to the end. And it's going to be epic. Just wait. Just wait. And we get this. We get... it's like they had a whole third act plan, and at the last minute, they just went, no, man, we're going to change it. We've got to come up with something else. The whole idea of the father who... Mind you, he doesn't degrade it a bit.
No, he looks really good.
He looks really good. He's
just got a little muddy. That's all.
What is he had chains around him?
I think he just picked up the chains off the bottom of the lake that Jason left. I think.
Be nice if you could have given us a shot to show us that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they did. But how did that? I mean, watching that again, Jace. Come on, right?
It just looks bad.
It just looks bad.
It honestly looks like somebody had an afterthought because the dad literally just has mud smeared on his face at one point. And it's like, that looks like somebody who's been underwater for 10 years.
I mean, honestly, Jason, if you were given, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, and I don't expect a proper answer, but you know and I know we could have come up with a better, we could brainstorm a much more effective ending to this film with the existing characters at that point. I mean, you have someone with so much telekinetic power and you're building up to a moment. There's so much you could have done with him.
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
There's got to be more bodies in that lake. Why not bring up like an entire army of Jason's victims to pull him down, led by your own dad? And have you be in charge of it, just sitting there like this the whole time, have a little blood coming out of your nose like 11 on Stranger Things, just going...
And that's such a brilliant idea because then what you're doing, you're bringing the film full circle because you bring back characters that you showed that died in the opening montage.
Yep.
And there's some of the characters at the bottom of the lake and they're pulling him down. That would be a really scary moment and something that would have satisfied the audience. Except we get this garbage. In my notes, it comes down to 3 words. Forgive my language. Ending fucking dumb. And that's the way I kind of put it. It's a dumb ending to a movie. You got a whole...
Ending is sudden and stupid.
Yep, sudden and stupid. You're a bit more articulate than me, but yeah.
It's not only the part with the dad popping up and pulling Jason under, but the rest of the movie that follows, it just seems like they just go as fast as they can to get to the credits because it's literally from the moment that the dad shows up, the credits are rolling within 90 seconds.
Dude, they even put him in an ambulance together.
Yes.
What ambulance have you ever known which has a twin accommodation?
I don't know. I've been in one ambulance, and that's that was a very roomy thing, and they're uncomfortable vehicles. There's no room for visitors.
No, and you're right. They're so trying to get to the credits that line that she goes, I can't even remember what she says at this point. I just remember going, oh, come on, when they're in the ambulance together, because I was so done with this movie at that point. That was just like the turd on top of the cake for me.
Yes.
It's a little moment. It's just like, well, you know what it is? I think for this film, what makes it feels like they didn't respect the fan base.
Not at all.
And if you're a fan of Friday the 13th films, like, I just feel like they were disrespectful to the time and energy and love that we have for this franchise. Because, you know, it feels like it was made by people who didn't understand the film they were trying to make at the end of the day.
No, I'm right there with you. I just feel like this was a movie that was made by committee. Maybe they were scared of the way that Part 6 performed, and they're like, well, obviously making it meta is not going to work. Let's go back to formula. And so they went back to the most formulaic formula that they could, and it just came up with this. And it was just
budget of $2.8 million, made $19.1 million. So it definitely underperformed.
Still makes money, though.
It still makes money, but you got to remember, you got to double that with. I'm telling you, their marketing budget would have been $10 million for this. So this film makes a little bit of money, doesn't make a whole lot of money. I absolutely think it would have cost them a lot in marketing. Because
well, that only means they have to do something crazy for the next installment.
And they do. And the next Friday the 13th, Jason, is absolutely... I remember seeing I remember seeing just the title of this film and going, what the actual are they doing now? And getting a little bit giddy at the idea that Jason is taking Manhattan.
Yes. That is the true sign of a franchise that is running out of ideas right there. When the main character takes Manhattan.
Yeah. You know, I feel like there's synergy between that franchise at this point and the Fast and the Furious franchise at this point. Because they're both batshit crazy by that point.
But at least neither one went to space. Oh, wait.
They both have.
They did.
Yeah, they did. Now, okay, Jace, that's it. Number 7's done. And you know what? It is kind of like having the best meal ever in number 6. And you're, it's beautiful. It's delicious. And then having to eat some day-old In-N-Out burger or Macca's or something.
That's very charitable of you to compare it to day-old. I would say it's like having a main course and then expecting, some kind of wonderful dessert. And they wheel out a bowl of cold diarrhea and say, bon appetit.
Agreed. But we're over that, thankfully. And now, as per we do at the end of every episode we're doing on Friday the 13th, we need to now spin the wheel.
This is my favorite part.
Oh, is it not? Because anything can happen here, Jace. Anything can happen.
Yay.
So, what would you like? If you were to land on a genre this week, what would you like to? Well, I wouldn't mind doing an action film.
I've been championing animated for weeks now, and we never land on it. So, but I'd be happy with either one. The only one that I really would not look forward to is drama, because drama is just not my gig. But I will dive into it.
Yeah. We didn't put on Golden Pond or Ordinary People in drama.
Did we not? I could have sworn I did.
Because when I think of 80s drama, I think of those films. But anyway.
Maybe I put them in the horror section. I don't know.
Yes. Here we go. I'm clicking the spin. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what we land on. Oh, the big fella's getting his wish.
Oh, you got it. Look at that.
Yeah, I got my wish. Beautiful.
Action.
Well, I know we got some crackers in this category, mate. I know we do. We got to show some of the entries. Oh, Death Wish 4 to Avenging Force Commando,
nice.
Last Dragon. Black Rain, which is a great movie. Great beheading scene in Black Rain.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
No, that's great. We got 5 Bond movies in there.
Yes.
And we've got Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. A Fred Ward movie that I love. I don't care.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've heard things.
Rock and Roll Nightmare. I've never seen. I've never seen Jim Carter either.
It's amazing. I've never seen Jim Carter, but I can tell you what Rock and Roll Nightmare is. It's a classic.
Now, going out there is tons of films we haven't added. Right, tons of big action films, and we will add them over time. I know people would be looking at that and going, "What about a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger films, Lethal Weapon films? They'll all be added later on." But this is what we've got here. There's plenty to choose from. Jason, are you ready for me to spin this wheel?
Whether I'm ready or not is irrelevant. It will happen.
It will happen, and let it happen now. Here we go. What is it going to be? What's it going to be?
Oh no. Ah! James Bond.
Da-da-da. James Bond, our first James Bond film.
Look at that.
I don't know what your memories are of Octopussy, my friend, but it is a very strong Bond film in my memory. It's actually, in the era of Roger Moore, it is my second favourite. The first being The Spy Who Loved Me. But Octopussy is better than I think a lot of people remember.
I know I've seen it. I remember the tiny jet.
Yeah.
But I remember nothing from this movie because I honestly don't think I've seen it since the 80s. So this will be a revisit for me.
James Bond, I don't know. We've never spoken about James Bond. Is it a franchise that you're into? Is it something that you would go and see the films of?
I have gotten into it. I got into it during the Pierce Brosnan era, and I watched all except for the last one of the Daniel Craig one. Just for some reason, I just haven't seen it yet.
And that's actually a really good.
Yeah,
good
that's
James
what I've
Bond
heard.
film.
I just haven't seen it yet. And I've seen several of the Roger Moore Bond movies. Moonraker, I don't care what anybody says. I friggin' love Moonraker.
Hey man, what kind of cold-hearted man can't go with the fact that Jaws falls in love?
Exactly.
What's wrong with you people?
Yeah. Let the man have a romance. Come on.
Octopus is still touching on some of the campiness of 70s, but they're kind of moving away from the live and let die, jumping across alligators to the, the man with the golden gun, which is Christopher Lee. Love him. So, yeah, I'm looking forward because I'm a big Bond fan. I think the best Bond film I have seen that's ever been made is Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig one in 2006. That's
that one was really strong.
Exceptional film.
Skyfall is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah,
I had a
love
problem with the
Skyfall.
ending. But as for the Pierce Brosnan ones, GoldenEye still holds up today.
Oh, absolutely.
It's one of those rare occurrences where the game is as strong as the movie and the movie is as strong as the game.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Here we go. So, the next thing that we will be doing on the VHS Vault is 1983's blockbuster Octopussy, and I can't wait.
Same here.
All right,
I'm
guys.
really looking forward to it.
Now, remember, guys, you can find us and follow us on our social media. There is mine, there is his. You can find it. Don't forget, we're part of a bigger channel here. You generally find us every Thursday night in the Captain's Quadrant, where I talk nonsense, Jason makes sense, and the rest of us are slightly nutty. So, and definitely join us for coming up because we're getting back into the Agony Booth. And if you don't know what the Agony Booth is, it's the greatest Star Trek show ever created, and we created it where we spin a wheel, shock horror, there's plenty of wheels on the channel, and we watch some of the worst Star Trek episodes ever created. So get on that because we got some big guests coming up too in this current season, which starts soon. All right, Jace, let's let the people go and get the hell out of here and write a better Jason Friday movie than the one we just watched. Ciao.